Good morning everyone and welcome to the show. Today is part 2 of the DMX4710s. We're going to dig inside of the operating system here and show you all the cool things that it can do. Are you ready for this, Fernando?
Yes!
Alright, let's hop into it, shall we? When you first power up the unit, you're going to get this display here. There's a couple things that you need to do. The first one is decide what language you're going to use. In this case, American English is where we're going to stay. Next is the clock. Pick your time zone. We are in the Eastern time zone. You can go back to GPS sync. This will allow the GPS antenna to figure out where it's at and automatically set the time for you. If it's not doing that, you can select manual and then you can come down to clock adjust. Here you can put in all the relevant information, and when you're done, make sure you hit set. If you don't, it won't remember those things and you'll have to do it over again. Down here in the bottom is for daylight savings time. Make sure to come in here and set it up, and when you're done, select the back arrow. Camera is next. Parking guidelines on or off. If we go into guidelines setup, you can see what the backup cameras look like. The one that has the little white box around it is the current one to set up. If you tap the arrows, you can move that one up or down. You can also move it in or out. Tapping on one of the plus marks will give you the ability to adjust that one. If you select initialize and select yes, it'll start over for you. The best way to set this up if you're going to use it is go to a flat parking space, pull through the parking space so that you have lines behind you, and then drop these onto those lines. That way you'll have an idea of how wide you've set this up, because most parking spaces are the same size. If you decide you don't want them, select off. If you have one of those cameras that have backup lines built into it, you can easily turn them off and you don't have to worry about them anymore. The last is demo. Select demo off. Now the unit won't keep scrolling through all that nonsense. You can get back into these initial settings once you've done this, so if you feel you need to change something, this is not the last time you will see them. Select finish. This is the cool little warning that pops up. If you hit agree, it'll go away. If you check this box, then this will go away automatically after 10 seconds. Or if you put the car in the reverse, it will also go away. Welcome to the new operating system. And it's not really new. This is the same operating system Kenwood has been using on all the radios for a while now. So let's go over what some of these things mean. This little guy here is the 9 key. When you press this, this will pull up all your apps that you have access to. Tap the arrow button, it'll pull up the rest of them. If it's grayed out like this, this means you do not have access to them. And some of the things that you are going to see grayed out at power up, if you don't add Sirius XM, that will be grayed out. Vehicle information is grayed out if you do not use your iData interface. If you're using an iData interface and it has satellite radio that is an external tuner, some of the GMs have that, this will highlight. The older GMs, the new ones, it's all integrated into the radio. Android Auto and Apple CarPlay are obviously grayed out right now because neither one of them are connected. Media player only highlights when you plug in something into the USB. Coming over, Bluetooth streaming, there's no Bluetooth phone. Radar detector. With iData, you can add a radar detector to the system that will report on the screen instead of just beeping randomly in the car. Gauges, iData, climate control. You can be using iData and not have this. This is only for vehicles where the climate control was done through the radio. For example, a lot of the Fords need this. Parking assistant. This gets activated through iData if the parking assistance does go through the radio. If you would like to customize this page, which most people I recommend doing, like for example, there is no radio down here. So if you're on this page here and you want to just go to the radio, you have to hit this. Press and hold the icon. Once the boxes appear on the bottom, you can drag down and now your radio is located here. You can do that for all of this. If we tap radio here, our radio will come up. We hit the little open sign. Now we have all our presets. If we hit the arrow, it will close. Since we're on the FM, this is a good time to talk about the home button. If we hit home, it'll automatically take us back to this page here. If we tap the icon there, it will bring us back to the radio. If we press and hold, it'll shut the radio down. reboots back up, hit agree. AM FM is selectable here in the middle of the screen. To mute the radio, down in this bottom corner, if you see a speaker with an X, tap it and that will mute the radio. On the top here you see where it says auto. Auto has to do with your track up and track down. So for example, if I tap it right now, it's gonna just scan and try to find a strong antenna signal. If I press a preset, it will stop. If I tap it and select auto 2, now it is going to go through my presets. As you can see here, it's scaling through all of them as I tap away. We have tons of presets to choose from. That can be both AM and FM if you want them to be. If I select it one more time, it will come up manual. Manual will allow me to go in and enter one at a time. So if I'm trying to fine tune or find something and it's just not working, I can manually search by just tapping the button one at a time. If I press and hold it, it will go faster. So you see the left and right arrow. If I tap right, it'll say DIM, as well as give me this little cool icon logo and the icon for apps. If I tap it one more time, I get nothing. One more time, it goes back to my main page. Let's take a look at this guy here real quick. If we tap the one that looks like the EQ, it is going to bring up the EQ. This is convenient if you want to get to your subwoofer level control, which is located in the main EQ page. We'll come back to this in a little bit. If I hit the back arrow here, it will return me to whatever source I was on previous. If I'm in the EQ and I hit the home button, that'll bring me back to this page. Apple CarPlay and Android Auto are now both wireless, so you can either connect to them through the USB or just pair your phone to them. If you don't know how to use Android Auto or Apple CarPlay, please check out a video on how to do that. We're not going to dig into those two features because I feel at this point most people have had some interaction with them. But the telephone icon here is going to do two different things depending on what is connected to it. So for example, if I'm connected via Bluetooth only, it will pull up this page here, which is just the basic Bluetooth interaction with the phone. I can dial numbers, I can go through my contacts, I can make and accept phone calls, I can do push to talk. If I'm connected over Apple CarPlay or Android Auto and I select telephone, it will take me to my phone folder and both of those applications. In this case, using CarPlay, it's showing me my phone list here. If I select the home icon, it will return me back out to this page. If I tap the artwork, it will return me to CarPlay or Android Auto. Back to these bottom icons here, you'll notice that the app icon is now highlighted because we paired a phone. If we tap it, it will automatically return me to Apple CarPlay or Android Auto, which is also similar. If I hit the home button, it will return me to this. And since we were listening to radio, if I tap here, it will return me to the radio. If I tap here, it will take me back to CarPlay. If I press play, then when I go home and I tap here, it will return me to my source. Moral of the story is, whatever is your audio source at the time, when tapping this on home, will automatically return you to it. We're gonna skip over the display and menu buttons for right now and go down to push to talk. If we tap that, it'll automatically launch whatever service we're using for talking. If we tap it again, it will go away. Next to our volume up and down, if I press and hold the volume, it will slowly creep up to number 15 and then we'll stop. Your steering wheel controls work identically the same way. Past 15, you have to raise the volume one at a time. However, if you press and hold volume down, it will slowly go down all the way. If you'd like to Frogger it, it will go faster. Let's go back to the menu / display off. If we press and hold it, it will shut the display off. This is nice for nighttime driving if you're going on a long trip. The unit is still playing, and if I tap the screen, it'll automatically come back on. If I press and hold it again, it'll go away. Menu. Menu is going to give me a drop down here across the top. The second one is display off, which is doing the exact same thing as if you press and hold this. In some cases, you'll find that some of these buttons do identical features. The first icon is screen adjustment. This allows you to adjust brightness when you're in a specific time of day, meaning is it nighttime and the headlights are on and this is dim, or is it daytime and the headlights are off and this is not dim? That's important to know because at nighttime when you adjust this, it will not affect day, and at daytime when you adjust it, it will not affect night. The orange-white wire in the harness that we talked about in part 1 is what controls that. If you get it to the point to where you're just like, I don't know what I did, you can easily select select initialize, it'll reset the radio back to out of the box settings. Next up is camera. If we select the camera icon, it will automatically show you the image that what is behind you, as long as you have the camera connected properly, meaning you have it powered from accessory power and not the reverse light. It's a good practice to never use reverse lights to power up your camera. This will also give you the display minus the backup lines if you're using the backup lines that are coming from the radio. After camera comes setup. Setup is going to get us into all the back end features of the radio, as well as gives us the option to go to the audio setup. If we press the button again, the next is audio. That is a redundant button that is in here for you. So depending on what setup mode you have it in, if you were to select menu and audio, it'll automatically take you to audio. But as you can see, you can choose once you're in the setup menu which one you would like. And last but not least, whatever source you're in, you can tap it and it'll take you there. So for example, if we were in radio instead of CarPlay or Android Auto, we could tap it and it'll take us back to here. It's a good way if you're in one of the menus and you just want to get to it really fast, you can tap that and go to a source. Going back in, let's dig a little bit into the setup mode. First is AV. You can turn on and off the AV out. One of the new features I like is reverse attenuation. This will lower the volume when the reverse is engaged. Guidance volume, voice recognition volume, phone incoming volume, phone talking volume. Basically anything that has volume to it can be adjusted here, up or down. They all come default right in the middle at 15. Speech quality adjust. Microphone levels, echo canceling, and noise reduction. If people are having a hard time hearing you or anything along those lines, those can all be dealt with in here. And you'll notice down here where it says Maestro setup and vehicle feature settings. If you are connected using a Maestro, this will be where all of the Maestro settings are at. If you need to reset the unit, if you need to get in and adjust your gauges, anything that is Maestro done will be through here. Vehicle features and settings are going to be for all of those features that were in the factory radio that when you took the radio out you lost. They'll be located here under AV. Display is next. Dimmer sync allows you to work off of that orange white wire. When that gets power, it'll dim the radio. When it loses power, it'll go back to maximum brightness. If you don't want it to do that, select it and you can turn it off, turn it on so that it's dim all the time, whichever you choose. On-screen display clock, pretty self-explanatory. And wallpaper customize. This is where you can go in and make it any way you'd like. You can also import 2 of your own images, sync smartphone photo, or put photos onto a thumb drive. User interface. Beep comes off, thankfully. You can go back and choose the language if you didn't get it right when you first powered it up. Parking assist display is for iData. If your car is hooked up and using the parking assist and you'd like to see it, you can turn it on or off here. Sometimes that does get in the way of the camera. Parking assist position. Time format, if you're one of those guys that likes to run it 24 hours, it's located right here. You can choose between the two. Clock adjust. Allows us to go in and manually set up that time again. And like I said, make sure you hit set when done. Camera. Rear camera message. This is a warning that happens when you put the car in reverse. If you tap it, it allows you to have it always display or go away after 5 seconds. That is my preferred method. You can choose whether you want the parking lines on or off. If you decide to keep them on, next is guideline setup. Special. Demo mode on and off, so if you forget to have turned it off when you first powered up the radio, this is where it's going to be located. Product information is going to give you the part number and the serial number of the radio and what it was designed for, the tuner setting. Software information, open source licensing. Yeah, if you're bored, go ahead and read it. Initialize. This is going to let us reset the radio to out of the box settings. Connection. This is going to be for your phones and how they're paired to it. Device list is going to tell you which devices are connected to the radio. Bluetooth, if you open it up, it'll tell you the name of the device. If you'd like to change it, you can. You can change your PIN code here. Telephone setup allows you to adjust how you'd like it to display first name or last name. Next up is audio. Audio is broken down into a couple pages. First of being speaker and crossover. One of the cool things about Kenwood, if you've never used one before, is the ability to set it up real quick without knowing a lot about what you're doing. First thing it's going to ask you is car type. They give you a few options: compact, sedan, wagon. We'll just select compact. The blue boxes are telling you what channel you're connected to. So right now it'd be the fronts. We'll choose a 6x9, seems how a lot of vehicles now have those in the front doors. It's going to ask you the location. Upper door, lower door, on dash, under dash. Lower door is where we have them. And then it's gonna ask you, do you have a tweeter? And if so, what size? Most of the time when there's a 6x9, there's like a 3.5 or a 2.5 in the dash, so we'll select large. Select the rear, 6.5, and the lower door is correct. And then choose the type of subwoofer we have. Let's say we have a 12-inch. At this point, you can walk away from it. It'll have done some setups. I do recommend going into it though and taking a look at your crossover and setting that up. Tap onto the number you would like. 70 Hertz for the front, 100 for the rear. Subwoofers default for 100. We'll set it down to 80 so we can see what it looks like here. I can also control the gain. So if I'm in my rear and my rears are too loud, I can turn the volume down here to attenuate for that. Once I have this all set up, hit the back arrow. Equalizer. It's a 13-band EQ that I can easily just run my finger over and make a curve if I would like. Preset select will bring up my defaults built in, as well as I have 3 users that I can set up. And to do that, we'll make a quick setting right here. We'll select memory, press and hold, and now if I go to preset select, user 1 is mine. All source allows us to apply this EQ curve to all the sources, or if you just adjust the EQ in whatever setting you're on, that EQ setting will only be for that source. So right now, if I'm in CarPlay, this EQ curve will only be for CarPlay. If I go out to FM, I can pick a different EQ curve. All source will activate them on all channels. Back arrow. Position, digital time alignment. Quick keys allow me to just select the front, driver, front passenger, all, front all. If I want to get a little bit more particular, choose where you'd like it to be and select adjust. So for example, if I'm in all and I hit adjust, it's going to just make an adjustment for all. If I'm in front left, it's going to make adjustment for front left. Here, I can then use the arrows to adjust for my distance. And if I select levels, I can adjust the level. Now it is defaulting. If I back out of that and go to front all, it will have changed. And if I look at my levels, it will have changed the levels there. Now we have -2 just in the rear. Volume offset is a handy little tool built into it. If you're listening to devices that are not playing at the same level, for example, radio, USB, Bluetooth, you can come in here and gain up or down some of those settings in order to make them all play at the same level. If you're like, holy crap, I just screwed up, hit initialize, and bring it all back to 0 for you. Last feature is sound effects. Bass boost is exactly what it sounds. If you'd like to restore in some of the bass that might be missing, classic rock or anything like that, select it. You'll be impressed at what it'll do. Keep in mind, if you're listening to something that already has a ton of bass, it's going to add even more bass to it. So be kind of careful using this. Another thing too that I'm a big fan of is loudness. You have loudness low and loudness high. This will add impact and depth to the music. If you're someone that likes to listen to it at a low volume, it'll really improve the way it sounds. The nice thing about loudness though is that effect does disappear as the volume goes up and our ear starts to hear better. The difference between low and high is how soon that effect rolls off. If you set it to low, the effect will roll off faster than it will on the high. Built-in amplifier on and off. If you're using this just preamp output, no deck power, if you turn this off, that'll allow you to not have to worry about those speaker wires touching against anything in the car. It'll also consume less power because the amplifier's not on. Features are one thing, however, just some of the simple things about the radio that you might want to know. Let's cover those. The screen is a 6.8-inch WSVGA that is 124 pixels by 600 pixels. With capacitive touch, which has 1.6 times more pixels than its predecessor. The RC outputs are 2.5 volts. Through the USB, you can play FLAC files, AAC files, WAV files, MP3s, and WMAs. Video formats it'll play are H.264, MKVs, WMVs, MPEG-4, and MPEG 1 or 2. USB charging is a high current 2.1 amp, and over here you can barely see it is the I if you want to use the optional remote control for this, which is the KCA RCD V340. There's one other bonus feature that I want to talk about, and I call this a bonus feature because use applications may vary. I really don't see this as a big selling point. You have to decide. And that is, whether you have an iPhone or an Android, if you click the source button and you can see up here where it says USB mirroring, if you tap that, as you can see here, we are watching this YouTube video from my phone on the radio itself. It is wired in, and there is an app you have to download to your phone. Now, I don't know how helpful this is going to be for you, but some people, they're excited about this. There's a limited amount of things you can watch. So, for example, you can watch YouTube, but when I go out to Netflix, as you can see, it's kind of not doing its thing. I got nothing going on here, which we kind of knew was going to happen. So just keep that one in mind if that is something you're interested in. You're like, I'm going to buy it for this. Okay, cool. Well, YouTube it is. All right, guys. Well, that sets us up for all the features that are jam-packed into this. So we have a good understanding of now what this radio can do, some of the key features of it. If you watched video 1, you understand all of the back-end side of things, the wiring, and how the radio fits. Next up, after this, video 3 is going to be an installation video where we take a look at how this is going to fit into a dash, wiring up all that fun stuff and getting it ready to go. Also, we're going to do a side video on this where we're going to show you how to integrate a backup camera into this and properly wire that and get it ready to go. So stay tuned for those other 2 videos that will come out shortly. Thank you so much for watching as always. You guys have a great day and we'll see you later next time. Bye.